We'll just give folks another minute or two to log in. I see people are still filtering into the Zoom room. So thanks for being here, and give us one more minute. I see folks are still filtering in. We'll just give it another 30 seconds or so. And for those of you that don't see it, Leslie just posted in the chat that the webinar is being recorded. It'll be posted on the NSHSS website once the recording's set up. All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started? Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope everyone is having a great summer so far. It's pretty hot where I am. I assume it's hot pretty much everywhere else and where you are as well. My name's Chris Earnshaw. I've been with Sallie Mae for about 7 years now. I'm based in the Albany, New York area, and I work with students in colleges throughout the Northeast, New York, New England, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Prior to joining Sallie Mae, I held a similar position at both KeyBank and Chase Bank. And I've also worked on college campuses, both here in the Albany area and in my home state of Rhode Island, in college financial aid offices. With me online today are two of my colleagues from Sallie Mae, Melanie O'Halleck and Stephanie Stock. They're going to help me out today on the Q&A. So if you have questions as we go along, feel free to post there. Melanie and Stephanie will try to answer you, and we'll also leave some time at the end to take some questions live as well. There are a lot of folks joining us today, so we will try to get to as many questions as we can in the hour allowed. But otherwise, let's get started. I'm going to turn my camera off just so I do not run into any hiccups with the bandwidth, and then we'll get started. So some of the topics we'll cover today includes saving for college, how to select a college and how much it will cost, the Fafsa, this is the form needed to apply for financial aid, understanding a financial aid award letter or offer letter, how to find and apply for scholarships. This is free money. Everybody loves free money. We'll talk about that. We'll take a look at some education loan options, and then some free tools and resources to make the process a little bit easier. So first, we'll take a quick look at some of the ways to save for college. Now, you don't have to start with a large amount of money, and small contributions can add up quickly. Students can open a savings account and designate the savings account as a college fund. Look for banks or credit unions that do not charge a fee, such as maintaining a minimum balance or any kind of fees like that. Most banks will offer student accounts in which they don't charge any fees. So if the students work part-time, deposit a portion of their earnings each week or each paycheck into the savings account. Deposit gifts from friends and family in there. Look into signing up for some of the free services that you earn cash back to save for college. For instance, look into participating with companies like You Promise, where a percentage of your spending on everyday items like groceries can automatically go toward college savings. Set a goal and regularly contribute money. Even a goal, like $20 a month helps. And a lot of banks offer free apps where you can actually track your progress on hitting your goals from month to month. Those apps help you motivate you to meet your goals and to save a little bit more versus spending. Finally, explore some tax advantage options such as 529 college savings plans. Now, 529 plans, they may offer special tax benefits, which do vary by state to state and by plan. Many states offer tax benefits for contributions to a 529 account. These benefits may include deducting any annual contributions from your state income tax. You use your 529 account withdrawals for qualified higher education expenses, or even for tuition for private elementary or secondary schools. Earnings are not subject to federal income tax, and in some cases, not subject to state taxes either. If not used for qualified expenses, they could be subject to state and federal income taxes, as well as a 10% federal tax penalty. Now, with 529 plans, you own the account and you control how money is invested and how it's spent. Anyone can start an account to benefit someone else. It doesn't necessarily need to be a parent, though in most cases it probably usually is. Depending on the plan you choose, you can choose from among the investment options available, taking into consideration when your child will be attending college and your risk tolerance. If you have a younger child several years away from college, you can be a bit more aggressive while managing your plan and not have to worry about the ups and downs of a typical investment market. Now, it's easy to open an account, and you can set your account to make automatic deposits from your bank account or even a payroll deduction. Most states offer plans that you can easily sign up for online. Now, keep in mind, anyone can help. Friends and families can make gifts to this account. You can email out a link to them if someone wanted to contribute money for a birthday or graduation or special occasion. Funds can be used at any accredited college, university, or vocational school nationwide, and many international schools as well. Now, some of you may be familiar with Carverdell education savings accounts. These act similarly to the 529 plans with a few key differences. With the Carverdell, you have more flexibility into the investments. You can invest the entire account into one individual company stock if you so choose. If you wanted to invest it all with Disney, for instance, you could certainly do that. The downside is, unlike the 529 plans, there's an annual contribution limit of $2,000 per recipient. And there may not be the same state tax benefits that are set up specifically with the 529 plans. Again, consult with your own attorney, tax advisor, or financial advisor regarding your investment circumstances and for any investment advice. And just as an FYI, NSHSS has a great webinar scheduled next week that takes a more in-depth look at some saving strategies. That's next Tuesday at 7 Eastern. Now, selecting a school and determining cost. So what is the average annual direct cost for a student who lives on campus? Now, these figures are from 2020. They include tuition and fees, room and board. You can see two-year public colleges are $18,550 per year. More and more community colleges are offering students the full on-campus experience, including residence halls. This could be a great opportunity for students who are looking to earn a trade, or maybe you're just unsure where they want to go or what they want to study as a major. So you can go to one of your community colleges across your state, knock out your standard courses at a much lower cost, then maybe transfer to a four-year school after a year or two, once you figure out where you want to attend or what programs you might be interested in studying. Now, four-year public colleges, these are your standard four-year state or college, state college or university. Typical costs are around $26,820 for an in-state student. For an out-of-state student, that cost jumps to an average of $43,280, so significantly more. Now, finally, four-year private colleges are most expensive, $54,880. Now, keep in mind, these figures are what we call sticker prices and are all prior to adjusting for any financial aid, including any grants and scholarships that the school may offer. So don't let these numbers scare you. Depending on a student's academic and financial background, these figures, could be substantially lower than what you see here. Now, when figuring out the true cost of college, families should consider both direct and indirect costs. Direct costs are your tuition and fees, and if you live on campus, room and board, which is your housing and your meal plans. These are items that the college will bill you for. Most colleges may offer and bill for health insurance plans if needed as well, which you can certainly opt out of, but it is available. Now, on the other hand, indirect costs are other items to consider that the college doesn't directly charge you for, things like books and supplies, equipment that you may need, including maybe a computer or a laptop, transportation costs. Is the college drivable from home? How much gas or mileage, is that going to cost? You need to fly back and forth between semesters or on breaks. And finally, any other personal living expenses. Are you living off campus instead of in the dorm? Now you may need to also consider paying for, your utilities, your internet, electricity, those types of expenses. So here are some tips to help you make the most of your decision. Don't choose a school just because of its reputation and price tag. Make sure it's the right education, is being offered at the right price. Cost is obviously a huge factor for families and can also be the deciding factor once all financial aid offers are received. Compare your total out-of-pocket costs and potential loan debt between all schools. If one school that is close to home is a little more expensive than one that is a few hours away, that cost savings might not be worth it with all the, mileage and gas from driving back home often. Avoid sticker shock. Many state schools can appear to be less expensive than private schools, but state schools may have limited funding to offer students as well. Most private schools, on the other hand, may have additional financial aid funds that can get you in the same ballpark as state schools, or perhaps even a little bit less expensive than a state school might be. Finally, visit as many colleges as you can, that offer the programs that you might be interested in. And if you can't visit in person, do check out the college's websites. Most of their admissions pages will offer, 360-degree virtual tour of the campus. Be sure to check out their social media as well, especially Facebook and Instagram. You'll really get a feel for the college on there as well. So now let's talk about the Fafsa. The Fafsa, which is the free application for federal student aid, that's the form that's used by the Department of Education to determine eligibility for federal financial aid. Now, federal financial aid includes federal Pell Grants, federal student loans, and a few other federal programs as well. Now, many states and most colleges also award their own financial aid based off information on the Fafsa. So even if you don't think you're going to qualify for the federal Pell Grant, it's still a great idea to get that Fafsa submitted, so at least the state and the college are able to award their own financial aid to you. Now, the Fafsa opens up for the new year each October 1st. So this October, high school seniors can begin to complete Fafsas for freshman year of college, which will be in fall 2023. Now, don't feel the need to stay up late, till midnight on October 1st to get it completed. It's not Ticketmaster. You don't need to get it done that quickly. But do realize some colleges do have priority deadlines. It could range anywhere from November 1st, December 1st, even out to March 1st. Every college is different, so double check the college's individual websites to make sure that you aren't missing any of their financial aid deadlines. So this is a quick guide on when you can complete the FAFSA. The first box in the upper left-hand corner is for students who are starting college later this fall. That FAFSA became available to students last October. If you're going to college this fall, in another couple months, you can still apply for financial aid if you haven't already. And depending on the college, financial aid funds could certainly still be available. Now, the middle box there is a guide for this year's soon-to-be high school seniors. Notice in a few months, on this October 1st, the FAFSA will open up. And a year later, the process repeats again for soon-to-be high school juniors, as the bottom box indicates. Now, if there are any families of incoming 10th graders on with us today, thank you for being diligent and being on extra early, but you basically add a year to those figures in the bottom box to figure out your FAFSA timeframes. Now, remember, students have to complete the FAFSA each year of college. The good news is the FAFSA does carry over most information from year to year, and they'll just ask families to update the income information to the new year. Students can apply or reapply all the way through the end of the academic year. Please don't wait until the end of the academic year to apply, but it's certainly, if circumstances change and you hadn't filed for financial aid, you still have the entire academic year of school to get that FAFSA completed. Now, a word about financial aid appeals. You'll notice that the tax years lag 2 years behind the college academic years. So sometimes it may not present an accurate picture of a family's current financial circumstances. If families have experienced a job loss or reduction in income due to COVID, or really for any reason, you can file an appeal with your college financial aid office. Financial aid office can determine to exclude any income listed on the tax return from a parent or parents who may have suffered a loss of income, potentially making the student eligible for additional financial aid. So here's a quick checklist of the different items you typically need to have handy when you complete the FAFSA. Students will first answer a few questions on the FAFSA to determine if the student is a dependent or independent student. Most students under 24 are considered dependent students for financial aid purposes, meaning parent information is required. The question comes up, my son turned 18, he moved out, do I still have to provide my parent information? The short answer is yes. For the FAFSA has put the age at 24. So anyone under 24 still needs to report parent information on the FAFSA. Now, if a student is married, if they're in foster care, if that student has dependents of their own, or if that student is currently in the armed forces or a veteran, they'll usually be considered independent regardless of age, and parent information is not required. If there's any question on dependency or independency, always consult with the college financial aid office for assistance. Now, a few schools, not too many, will also require incoming students to complete what's called the Css Profile Application. This application is in addition to the FAFSA and asks more in-depth questions on a family's finances. Not too many schools require this form. Some elite private schools use this form in order to award their own institutional financial aid. The school does require this form, they will let you know. Just a quick note, based on our research that we conduct annually on how America pays for college, fewer families are filing the FAFSA, which means they could be missing out on thousands of dollars of financial aid each year. The numbers for fall 2021 showed FAFSA filings were down almost 200,000 applications versus the prior year. meaning there could be more financial aid available than families are utilizing. Now, news came out just today that showed FAFSA filings for fall 2022 have ticked up versus the last couple of years. So that is good news. Bottom line, get that FAFSA filed. Now, the world of college financial aid is littered with jargon and acronyms, and they do get confusing. So here are some of the common financial aid terms to get to know. Cost of attendance, or COA, is the estimated cost to attend for one academic year, typically, fall and spring. As we mentioned earlier, this includes your tuition and fees, books and supplies, room and board, transportation, personal expenses, loan fees. Colleges will adjust the cost of attendance annually to reflect any changes to any of those costs each year. The expected family contribution, or EFC, is a measure of your family's financial strength and is calculated according to a formula established by law. The information from the FAFSA is used to calculate the EFC, and then schools use the EFC to determine federal student aid eligibility and total financial aid offered. Now, your EFC isn't the amount of money your family will have to pay for college, and it's not the amount of federal student aid that you'll receive. It's simply a data point that the Department of Education uses to measure financial aid applicants. Now, note that beginning in the 2023-24 college year, so next year, the name of this index is changing from the EFC to the SAI, which is the Student Aid Index. So we touched on special circumstances earlier, such as loss of income. If your family encounters a financial crisis that is not reflected on the FAFSA, contact the financial aid office at each school you're considering attending. Examples of events that may be considered, include loss of job, parents separated or divorced, the death of a parent, death of a spouse, any extraordinary out-of-pocket medical expenses. Now, each school handles these situations differently, and they're not required to make adjustments, though most colleges, they will try to work with families that are experiencing any of these special circumstances. And finally, you may have been selected for a process called verification. This is a process that schools must go through to confirm the information submitted on the student's FAFSAs is accurate and the college is awarding financial aid fairly and accurately. Your school will notify you of any documentation you'll need to submit. In most cases, for most families, this constitutes just a quick form to complete, and you submit it with a copy of your income tax returns and W-2s. This doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Students are selected, randomly, unless something really looks out of place. It's a random selection. There are some schools that will choose to verify 100% of all financial aid applicants. That's usually your smaller private schools. They will verify all financial aid to make sure everything is accurate. So within a few days of completing the FAFSA, the Department of Education sends your FAFSA information to the college electronically. The college will then be able to subtract your EFC from the college cost of attendance to calculate the student's financial need, meaning how much need-based federal aid, such as grants, loans, work study, you should be eligible to receive. Your EFC or SAI won't vary by college. It shouldn't vary. It's the same no matter what college you're applying to, but the cost of attendance from college to college can vary greatly. So the amount of aid students can receive can vary by college based on that college's costs and the available financial aid funds that they have. Financial aid offers. So after being accepted to college and completing the FAFSA, students will receive a notification that outlines how much the school will cost, what kind of financial aid they will receive, including any federal, state, and college sources. Schools have different names for this. Could be financial aid offer letter, financial aid award letter, financial aid package. All these terms are used interchangeably. Most schools now send their offer letters electronically, but a lot do still send them, out by mail. Sometimes it's included with your admissions decision letter. Sometimes it comes totally separately. Every college does it a little differently. Your financial aid will be divided into fall and spring semesters, or it could be divided into trimesters or quarters if your school happens to be a trimester or a quarterly school. Very important that you compare the financial aid offers from all your schools to see which has the best deal for you. To make it easy, you can use a worksheet to compare your offers side by side, or just create your own Excel spreadsheet. Every college presents their financial aid offers in a different format, so it's a good idea to use a comparison tool to differentiate the types of aid offered, grants, scholarships, loans for each school. That'll kind of give you a bottom line comparison. So let's just take a look at a sample financial aid award letter. Now, this is a sample financial aid letter for a freshman student living on campus. We use round numbers here for this example just to keep things simple. Cost of attendance is listed at the top. Remember, that includes direct and indirect costs for a total of $45,000. Not all of these items are charges on your bill. Again, the tuition and fees, the direct costs are charges on your bill. The others are indirect costs. So this student has an EFC of 1,000, leaving a financial need of $44,000. Next, we can apply all the gift aid and grants and scholarships. We use grants and scholarships interchangeably to denote free money, but a good rule of thumb is grants are based on financial need. Scholarships are based on some kind of merit, either academics, athletics, demographics. In this example, the student received $20,000 in gift aid, leaving a net cost of $25,000. This freshman student borrowed their maximum federal direct loan eligibility of $5,500. That leaves a balance of $19,500 on the cost of attendance. This can be covered by any additional outside or third-party scholarships the student might receive but hasn't reported yet. Any savings, 529 plans, tuition payment plans, or Parent Plus loans, or private student loans. Now, please note this student was also offered $2,000 in federal work-study funds. While this item is a form of financial aid that does appear on your award letter, students will receive this funding, in the form of a paycheck throughout the year as they're eligible to work on campus. These funds are not applied to the student bill. Students can certainly use these funds to pay the bill, but more than likely students use work-study funds, for their living expenses or for spending money throughout the year. So let's talk a little bit about scholarships. Some people think that scholarships are only for scholars or for athletes. And while good grades will certainly create scholarship opportunities for you, there are opportunities for everyone out there. For almost every background, skill set, interest, or hobby, there are scholarships available. Challenge is looking for the right scholarship. It can take some time, but students should realize how important this free money can be, because the more free money students can get for college, that's a little bit less that they need to borrow. Now, scholarships can be awarded for a variety of reasons, as you can see from the list on the slide. And while the federal and state governments do award some scholarships, the vast majority of scholarship funds are awarded by the college in which the student enrolls and by private organizations. One quick tip, scholarship applications should not cost a fee to apply. If you're asked to pay an application fee, just skip it. At best, it's a raffle. It's not a scholarship. And at worst, it's a scam. Also skip it if they're asking for your social security number up front during the application process. That's another red flag that it may be a scam. So just, skip it altogether. Where to go? Check with your high school guidance office. They'll always have a comprehensive list of area community-based scholarships that are available. Most colleges have their individual scholarship programs funded by donors. And the college websites will have a comprehensive listing of every scholarship that's available. If you're a person of faith, check with your religious organization where you're a member. Your employer or even your parents' employer may offer scholarships for employees or children of employees. NSHSS is a great resource for scholarships, and there are scholarships you can apply for posted throughout the year. And they have a tremendous amount of helpful resources posted on applying for scholarships. Check online. There are some great scholarship search engines that are free to use. We at Sallie Mae offer a free scholarship search engine. FastWeb is another popular tool that students use. And then finally, for more information on applying for scholarships and for some scholarship tips, join NSHSS this Thursday evening at 7 Eastern for a whole session just on the scholarship process. Now, just to again touch base on student employment options. Employment programs provide part-time jobs to students. Some students are eligible for federal work study, but most colleges also hire non-work study students as well. There's really no difference. It's the same jobs that the students work. It's just a matter of, is the college paying you out of their own budget, or is it coming out of, federal funds, the federal work study funds? Just about every department on campus will hire students, the library, athletics center, computer lab, the dining hall, admissions, the financial aid office, where I got my start many moons ago, any of the academic and administrative offices. Basically, everyone hires students. So I always encourage students to work on campus when you're able to. The hours are much more flexible, compared to a traditional part-time job. And you can squeeze in an hour or two here and there between your classes. If you need time off to study for an exam or work on a project, the folks at the college are usually much more understanding than maybe, your local restaurant owner or store manager may be. Now, everybody's favorite section, education loan options. Now, the most common type of student loan is the federal direct student loan. Federal direct student loans are provided by the U.S. government and must be paid back with interest. Repayment typically begins 6 months after the student graduates or leaves school. Interest rates for the coming 2022-23 academic year on undergraduate student loans is 4.99%. With direct subsidized loans, the borrower is not charged interest while in school or during any grace or deferment periods. The direct subsidized loan is a need-based financial aid program, so students have to qualify for the interest-free subsidized loan option based on the information on the FAFSA. With direct unsubsidized loans, interest is accruing on these loans at all times. The borrower is responsible for paying that interest as it accrues or once the loan enters repayment. Now, all students are eligible for this loan program regardless of financial aid. Now, while I did say interest accrues at all times, I will note that since March 2020, The Department of Education paused all interest accrual and student loan collection and repayment as a result of the pandemic. Anyone on the call has student loans themselves, or maybe an older student who's currently in college. There hasn't been any collection on those loans at all. So while the Department of Education, they've extended the date and the pause several times over the last couple of years. As of now, the pause is scheduled to end on August 31st. So in about another 5-6 weeks. That's assuming it is not extended again beyond that date. It's your guess or mine whether or not it'll be extended, but we will see. Now, here are the annual borrowing limits that are available. First-year students can receive up to $5,500, and the limit goes up each year. $31,000 is the maximum a dependent undergraduate student can receive in direct loans. Independent students can borrow an additional $4,000 to $5,000 per year for an aggregate maximum of $57,500. Now you can see interest rates this coming academic year are fixed at 4.99%. That rate is locked in for the life of the loan. New rates come out each July 1st. So if you borrow again in subsequent years, the rate will likely change. But again, the loan for this year is locked in at that rate of 4.99%. For students, if you're going to be a high school senior and you're going to start college fall 2023, you'll start to know what the interest rates are for next year, a little bit before July 1st, 2023. Now, direct loans does charge an origination fee. These fees are subtracted from the loan prior to disbursement. So if you borrow $5,500, a $58 fee is deducted from the loan, and $5,442 will be applied to the bill. You'll still owe the full $5,500 once repayment begins. Now, students all receive a 6-month grace period, meaning once you graduate or leave school, you have 6 months before that first payment is due. Students can choose, from 10 up to 25-year repayment term. Deferments on your loans are available if you go on to graduate school, if you join the military, if you're experiencing economic hardship, you can apply for a deferment with direct loans. Plus loans are federal loans for parents. Parents can borrow the entire cost after any financial aid is applied. It is a credit-based loan. It's not automatic like the direct loan program is. And this loan is in the parent's name only and not in the student's name. Only parents or step-parents are eligible to apply, though it does not necessarily need to be a custodial parent or the parent who supplied their information on the Fafsa. The parent alone is responsible for repayment. Now, like the direct loans, the interest rate is fixed and set each year on July 1st. This year, the interest rate is fixed at 7.54%. Do keep in mind, though, that Plus Loan does charge a 4.228% origination fee. So if you borrow a $10,000 Plus Loan, $423 is subtracted from the loan proceeds. But again, the parent would be responsible to pay back the full $10,000. Repayment on Plus Loans typically begins within 60 days of the loan being fully dispersed to the school. But parents do have the option of deferring repayment until after the student graduates. Now, private student loans are credit-based loans, meaning the borrower must qualify for it. The student is the primary borrower on the loan. However, a student who may not have sufficient credit history is encouraged to add a cosigner to the loan, which usually means most traditional first-year college students will probably need a cosigner. Cosigner is just as responsible for the loan as the student borrower is. The cosigner is often a parent, but unlike the Federal Plus Loan Program, that's not a requirement. Every lender really prices their loans differently, so we encourage students to shop around, see who's offering a good rate, who has ease of application, ease of receiving loan funds, good customer service, which lender has a relationship, with the college that you're attending, all things to keep in mind. Sallie Mae has partnered with NSHSS, so check out the resources included on the pages that are listed here. Just to finish up, some additional tips and resources that might be available to you. So, families should carefully review the information on their FAFSA, make sure there's no errors. Errors can lead to delays in processing. Always double check all Social Security numbers. The biggest hiccup that can really slow down processing is an incorrect Social Security number. It can slow down the process, both the Department of Education with the FAFSA folks, as well as at your college. Students may have to accept or decline their offer with a school. You do that either online or by returning, a signed form to the school's financial aid office. Just about all cases, this is done online these days. Students don't have to accept all types of aid offered in the financial aid offer. You don't have to take the loans out if you don't need them. But keep in mind, they will still be available to you throughout the year. If something comes up and you do need to borrow those loans, they are still available to you. The financial aid offer typically covers one academic year. But ask the question early, is the same aid going to be available, in your second and subsequent years of college, assuming financial circumstances remain, relatively the same year to year. If they're offering you a scholarship, understand the renewal requirements of that scholarship. Sometimes there's a minimum GPA that's required for students to maintain a scholarship from year to year. Ask what that GPA is up front. A 4.0 is a perfect score. That's a tough bar to clear. Maybe it's a 3.0, which is certainly a good GPA and allows you to maintain that scholarship. Every college will do that a little differently. Again, compare all the terms and conditions of the award letter. Look at the bottom line costs when comparing, financial aid offers from school to school. Be sure to look at both the total amount of aid and the types of aid offer. Some schools, not many, but some schools might include, big plus loan in the financial aid offer. Makes it look like students are receiving much more financial aid than they really are. Plus loans aren't considered financial aid, so just keep an eye out for that. So we've had a lot of information in this presentation today. Know that both National Society of High School Scholars, Sallie Mae, a ton of great resources available to you. Please take advantage of our various virtual and live events that we're hosting on different topics, throughout the year. For those of you attending Scholars Day in DC on August 5th and 6th, Stephanie and I will be there, so please stop by the Sallie Mae table and say hello. And that concludes tonight's presentation. Thank you so much for your time today. With that, I will turn to my friends Stephanie and Melanie to see if any, looks like some questions came in. We'll see what came in on the chat. Let me go to Stephanie first.
Hey, Chris. So we did get a lot of questions about scholarships. So if you could talk a little bit about when is a good time to start applying for scholarships, and yeah, let's hit that one first.
All right. Yeah, sure. Your short answer, it depends. If scholarships are part of the college financial aid process, colleges will review eligibility when you complete your FAFSA, or even during the admissions process. For private scholarships through organizations or individual donors, they really set their own time frames on application deadlines. Deadlines could really be any time throughout the year. Some scholarships you can apply for as a senior, others could be during your junior year or even earlier than that. So it's important to remain vigilant throughout the year. If you go on NSHSS's scholarship page, there's several scholarships out there with varying deadlines. Some are coming up soon, others are later in the year or even early next year. Every scholarship's a little bit different. Any other questions out there, Stephanie? I see
Sure.
Melanie may
Oh.
have dropped. So it
Oh,
might just
Melanie
be-
dropped. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
it looks like she's having connectivity issues.
Okay, yeah, no worries. So we also got some questions about my parents are divorced. Which parent's information should I put on the FAFSA?
So this it's a good question. This comes up a lot. The federal regulations state that the student should list the custodial parent that the student lived with the most. If support is truly 50-50 right down to the day, then really use your best judgment on who to include, but try to remain consistent from year to year. So when you refile your FAFSA, you'll want to be consistent. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if a parent is remarried, the law states that step-parent information is required on the FAFSA. This is regardless of any obligations, that a step-parent may or may not have to that individual student.
Okay. It looks like, can you go back a slide, Chris?
Sure.
I think
Not this
people are,
one.
not this one. No, maybe with the links. Yeah, that one.
Okay.
We also have a question. Let's see. Could you ask for scholarships while you're still in high school, such as if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, and even a senior?
Yeah, like I said, some scholarships, they'll let you apply regardless of what year in school you may be. I know with the Sallie Mae scholarship search, there's even some scholarships out there, as young as 13, 14 students can apply, but the bulk of them are probably, the latter half of high school, junior and senior year. Each scholarship applications will make it clear during the application who can apply, by year. They'll designate that on there.
All right. And let's see, is there a good website that helps you in deciding which colleges you want to consider going to?
So the tool I always use, there's an organization called the College Board. They've been around a long time. Collegeboard.org is their website, and they have a good information on each college, as far as the cost, financial aid that they might offer, how difficult the school is to get into if they're highly selective, or if they might, let more students in. All that information is out there, and it's free to use. That's usually my go-to. There's a handful of sites out there, all pretty good to use. You don't want to use anything that, you have to pay to create an account. So, try to stick with some of the free college comparison sites.
Okay. And here's one. Can you write off student and or parent loan interest on your taxes?
You can right now. Official disclaimer: I'm not an accountant, so any tax advice, consult with an accountant or, tax advisor, but generally, yes, you are able to deduct any student interest that was paid on your federal income taxes.
Okay, and do you have any recommendations for banks to set up a savings account for scholarships?
That is a good question. I know as far as like to deposit the scholarship or banks that offer scholarship, I guess.
I think it seemed like to deposit your scholarships in. I would generally probably say, creating an account at your own
Yeah, I would,
bank
tend to look at
or
your family bank. Now I
like
know
Smarty Pig.
Smarty Pig is a good one, which, is partnered with Sallie Mae. Generally, when you do receive scholarship funds, in most cases, the donor sends those funds directly to the college. So you'll let the scholarship donor know where to send the funds. Usually they don't go directly to the student, but certainly I'm sure there are some exceptions to that rule.
Sure. And then we have a question on does each college have a specific deadline for you to apply?
Yeah,
And I don't know if that's admissions. Maybe you could speak to the admissions side of it as well as the financial aid
sure.
side of it.
So yeah, so most schools do have some kind of deadline where you're able to apply both for admissions and for financial aid. Now, a lot of depending on the school, that deadline, may be soft. It could be a little, flexible. The admissions office is always happy to take more, student applications. The financial aid deadlines, those can vary as well, from school to school. Generally, it used to be everyone's deadline was March 1st, and then they moved the Fafsa, to October. So a lot of schools move their financial aid deadlines to maybe November or December. Just it's best to check with every college, both the admissions deadline and the financial aid deadline.
Yeah, and they usually post all of that on their website as well, but definitely
Yeah, it'll be
verify.
right on the admissions page. You're right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Also, we have a question about aid offers. A question as to which month during the student's senior year do they receive the aid offer, or does it come during the summer?
So it will
when
come.
Go ahead.
No, this will vary by school as well. So there are some colleges, and Stephanie, you and I work with, a lot of colleges that just have different processes altogether. Some schools will immediately start sending out financial aid offer letters or award letters, within weeks of you filing the FAFSA. So if you do it in early October, you could get something in the mail, assuming you've been accepted to the school for admissions, you could get something in the mail, within a matter of weeks. Other colleges hold off and kind of mail them all at once at certain dates, be that December 1st or, January 1st or even, February or March. It's a wide range and it varies from school to school.
Okay. And then let's see, we have quite a few questions about federal loans. So maybe it's a good idea to revisit this. One person had asked if you can accept a portion of the loan amount and return the rest, or is it an all or nothing situation? So could you address?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And there's definitely a lot of flexibility with the loan programs. You don't have to borrow the entire amount. Let's say you were offered $5,500. You decide you only want to borrow $2,000. You can certainly do that. You can come back for more later on during the year. If you have any unused loans, let's say, your car breaks down or some unexpected expense, you can come back and borrow those leftover funds. On the flip side of that, if you borrow the full amount up front and you decide, oh, I don't need all this loan, I want to return it, you can ask the college to cancel a portion of that loan. They will send the funds back, whether it's the Department of Education for your direct loans or any of the private companies. They can send those funds back and you won't be responsible for them. And, we encourage students, don't over borrow. So if there's ever any doubt that you don't need the funds, borrow on the conservative side. Again, those funds will be available to you throughout the year if you absolutely do need them.
Right. And I think it's also important to realize that your college sends you a tuition bill or a bill for those direct charges for each semester. So you'll get a bill for the fall semester, and then you'll get a bill for the spring semester. You apply for your loan for the full year, but only the half that's applied that you need for the fall is actually applied to your student bill. So if you find that you need the loan for the fall in the full amount, you can take it, but in the spring you might need a lesser amount. You can always reduce that spring amount or vice versa. So yeah, it is flexible.
Absolutely.
Okay, so another question is with regards to submitting the FAFSA. Can you submit the FAFSA for, it looks like the student will be going to school in fall of 2023. Can you submit the FAFSA now, or do you have to wait until October 1st?
So yeah, the FAFSAs run on a year-by-year basis. So the FAFSA for next academic year, fall 2023, that one will open up on October 1st. You can do this year's FAFSA, however, no one will be able to process it because the student won't be in college, until next year. So if you want to do it as practice, you're certainly welcome to, but the FAFSA you want to do is the one that opens up in October.
Okay, I have another federal loan question. This one is with regards to the Parent Plus loan. Now, is this specifically for parents, but what if the person has a guardian? Would their guardian be able to take out a plus loan?
So that's a good question for the financial aid office. It depends on the student's age and when the student had that legal guardian. So I think, and don't quote me, if the student is younger than 13, then that legal guardian is considered a parent and then yes, can apply for the plus loan. However, if it's after the age of 13, that student, I believe, would be considered independent, and therefore there would be no Parent Plus loan eligibility. But
Okay.
I would check with the college financial aid office on that particular circumstance.
And we have a question about blended families. How does the FAFSA look at blended families?
So one of the questions on the FAFSA is the student's household size. So if parents are remarried and there's blended family with other siblings, you total everyone in that household and report that on the FAFSA. And you also will report how many students or how many people will be college students in that year as well. So if you and your sibling or step siblings are attending college at the same time, you put that on the FAFSA. You don't need to be attending the same college, but you certainly want to indicate that there's more than one student in school in that academic year.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about scholarships. If a student has, and this is a good scenario, a full ride scholarship, so that could either be full tuition or a true full ride, meaning that it's covering tuition, room, and board, can they still apply for scholarships and grants?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously that's a good problem to have. If you have, too many scholarships. Now the schools can't award more financial aid, the Pell Grants and the student loans, than what the cost of attendance is minus any scholarships received. So, if the total scholarships, and any financial aid exceed that amount, the college may need to reduce some of the financial aid. They can't reduce your scholarships, but they could certainly reduce other financial aid. Ideally, they'll reduce your student loans first before any grants. Um, you can also check with your individual donor or, the scholarship organization. Sometimes it's possible to defer your scholarship maybe your second year or beyond. If you're going to run into a problem of having, too much scholarships, that's certainly a good problem to have. But some of them, you can defer to a future year, and use it at that point.
Okay, and we have another question on scholarships. Is it a requirement that the funds be used to pay for tuition, or can they be used for any purpose that the student needs?
So usually with scholarships and really any financial aid, the way the funds go to the college and will be applied to the bill, whether that's financial aid funds or scholarship funds. Once the bill is paid in full, then the college will refund you any overages. They'll either deposit it in your account, or send you what's called a refund check. You're supposed to use that check for educational loan purposes, but it's a refund back to you. Maybe you need to buy a laptop or books, something like that. You can use that refund for anything.
Great. Okay, let's see. See. What happens if there isn't a legal divorce, but one parent has abandoned the family and there's no contact? Would that be
So
a
in that
special
case,
circumstance?
yeah, so I think parents would be considered separated. And the custodial parent would report their information, but the parent who is not in the household any longer would be excluded from the FAFSA. And any income that parent may have would be excluded from the FAFSA as well.
Okay. So we got another question. Can you use just one parent information? So that again would fall along the lines of if you're in a situation where there's a divorce or something like that, but if the parents are together, it would be a joint. You'd have to provide both parents information.
Yeah, if parents are married, living in the same household, then both parents' information would go down on the FAFSA.
Okay, perfect. If we plan to go to college in another country, will we still be able to apply for scholarships in the United States? Ooh, I think that depends largely on the scholarship organization, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Every scholarship donor will set their criteria. Some may say, for attending college in the United States, some may not. You can attend anywhere, including internationally. Keep in mind, while we're on the subject of international colleges, many of them, particularly Canada, Europe, and throughout the world, do participate in, the U.S. financial aid program. So you can still receive the federal direct loans, even if you're attending college internationally. So that sounds exciting. I've always wanted to travel.
Right, exactly. Now we can appreciate this next question. We have a colleague at Sallie Mae who has triplets that are going to college as freshmen this fall. So this question pertains to if you have multiple children going to college, i.e. twins, is this considered a special circumstance?
So it's not a special circumstance in the sense that it's something, you need to appeal or bring up with the college financial aid office. You'll report on the FAFSA. Let's make it simple. There's mom, dad, and the twins. So when you fill out the FAFSA, you'll fill out 2 FAFSAs, one for each twin with their separate information on each one. And for household size, you'll report, again, for the sake of ease, mom, dad, and the twins, 4 people in the household, and then 2 in college, which is the 2 twins. What the financial aid formula does when they see a family has 2 in college, they effectively cut the EFC, or the expected family contribution, in half. The theory being, okay, they have 2 in school, so they can afford half as much for each of the 2 students. If there's 3 in school, like God bless them, like our friend at Sallie Mae, who's sending triplets to college next month, his EFC is going to be divided, or their EFCs will be divided in thirds, for each triplet. So that's how it takes into account in the formula. Some individual colleges, if twins or siblings, don't have to be twins necessarily, if siblings are attending the same school, some colleges may offer a little more financial aid for both students, realizing that you have 2 in school. They want both siblings to attend, so that could be an option as well.
We also have a question back into the student loan or the college loan area. Which is better, a Parent Plus loan or a private student loan?
So really that depends on every family's individual circumstances. We recommend, families shop around. The credit process on the plus loans tend to be a little bit easier than they do on the private student loans. However, with the private student loans, families could receive an interest rate lower than what the federal plus loan program is offering. And most private loans don't charge that origination fee, which, as we talked about, was 4.22 something percent, for the coming year. So kind of, do some shopping around for the best, rates. If plus loan turns out to be, the lowest interest rate, that probably be the program I would choose. If you get a lower rate with some of the private loan programs, take a look at those. I will point out, and we point this out in other presentations, it wasn't in this one tonight, but if you do shop around for student loans, as far as your credit reports go, they will only consider it as one inquiry on your credit report, regardless of whether or not you applied for 1 student loan or 12 student loans, within, I think, a 30-day period. They kind of know you're shopping around for a student loan and will only consider that one inquiry. That holds true whether you're car shopping for a car loan, mortgages. They always consider that one inquiry within, a 30-day time frame.
Great, thanks, Chris. And we have gotten a couple of people who have asked about their retirement accounts, and if the FAFSA requests information about a 401k or a 403b and how that's factored into the FAFSA.
Yeah, so FAFSA will not ask questions on retirement specific accounts. Those will be excluded from the financial aid calculation. So if you have a 401k, they don't take that into account with financial aid. Any kind of retirement funds are usually excluded from the financial aid process. If you have individual, stocks, those, if they're not in a retirement account, you would report those on your FAFSA. You have investment property or summer home, the net value of that property would be included on the FAFSA. So let's say, I'm up in Saratoga County, New York. Let's say you have a cabin in the Adirondacks it's valued at $200,000, but you have a mortgage on it of $100,000. You would report the net value of that property on the FAFSA, which in this case, would be
Would be the 100,000 of
$100,000.
equity. Yeah.
Right.
And let's move on to campus employment. So are there enough jobs to go around on campus, or if you didn't apply soon enough, could they all be taken? And they're asking, what's the best time to apply for a job? Is it once the school
So
starts?
I like this question, whoever asked that.
Okay.
So
Good job, Mandy.
You can start looking for jobs. The best time, is if you're local to the college, early in the summer, or right around now. Sometimes it's the financial aid office that houses all the available student jobs. Sometimes there's a separate, student employment office or career center. Every college is a little differently, but they'll have a listing, and it's probably all online these days anyway. And you might be able to access it at home and browse those jobs. Now, yes, positions do fill up. So, if you wanted to work in the library or the admissions office, those spots tend to fill up a little faster. But there's usually jobs, and you can find a job on campus usually most of the time. Now, it might not be your first choice, and you can always switch, departments from year to year as things open up. But in most cases, the college will try to, to accommodate you best they can.
Yeah, they all have different procedures. And this is coming from someone who used to be the administrator of a college work study program at a university in Florida. So yeah, it can vary from school to school, but some will have the job listings on the website. Some will have you apply. Some may just assign you. And then your sophomore year, you could go or even the spring semester of your freshman year, if you don't like the job that you're placed in, you can try and find a different job on campus and switch.
I always recommend the financial aid office. It'll keep you on your toes. It's never a dull moment to work in.
And never a dull moment. And the other thing is, if they get these random scholarship things that come in, sometimes it's happened before in my career working in financial aid offices, that a donor will come in and they'll want to give money out, and you have to find somebody really quick. And sometimes that person might be the kids working in your office.
It's nice to know and be friendly with all the financial aid folks on campus. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. We have so many questions, and there's such good questions. Let's see. Could you just repeat the FAFSA web address?
Yes, that is fafsa.gov. Let me try to go back to that screen. There it is right there. Yeah, fafsa.gov. And they do have a mobile app as well, called My Student Aid. That's the Department of Education's. If you wanted to do it over your phone on an app, you certainly can. Still old fashioned, need to do that in front of the computer, but there's the site right there.
And then let's see. Are there any other good resources besides NSHSS or Sallie Mae that can help you apply for scholarships?
The other one I mentioned was FastWeb. The two largest scholarship organizations, as far as database, or Sallie Mae and FastWeb. FastWeb's independent from us, so certainly check them out. What you do, you'll create a profile, and it will let you know everything that you're eligible for based on the information that you put in the profile. I would always, the first stop for scholarships for high school students should always be your high school guidance office. They always have, a listing of everything local, everything in the community, alumni scholarships, those type of things that are available.
Okay. Let's see. How about summer? Can you get financial aid for a summer?
You can. Now, the nice thing, they changed the rules recently where if you were eligible for federal Pell Grant, you got some in the fall, some in the spring. Now there's additional eligibility. If you're taking, classes in the summer, you can get a little bit of additional financial aid funds, for Pell Grant. Now, student loans, federal student loans, there's annual maximums. So if you've already used your federal loans for fall and spring, you cannot use it for summer. If you have leftover student loans, you can use them for summer if you didn't use them throughout the year, as long as you're taking at least 6 credits in that summer semester. That's the one rule with the federal student loans. You always have to be at least 6 credits or half time to get them. That's fall, spring, or summer.
Right. And we have gotten a couple of questions this evening with regards to loan forgiveness programs. If you could explain a little bit about how you apply for them and how that works.
Yeah, so there's a couple different types of programs. Some are managed, some individual colleges have loan forgiveness programs. Most of them, the largest loan forgiveness program is through the Department of Education. You would, once you graduate, they'll send you account information when you have your student loans to log in, to track your loans, pay your loans. But there's also information on the loan forgiveness programs there. The way those work, the primary one that I know, if you're going into education and being a teacher or working in any kind of public service, you can apply for what's called the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, in which case any unpaid student loans after 10 years of making payments would then be forgiven at that point. There's other programs that are based on income, where you pay a little bit each month, and then after 20 or 25 years, they could repay the balance. But the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, that's the big one that most people, again, you could be a teacher, nurse, any working for any nonprofit government agency, you could be eligible for Public Service Loan Forgiveness. There's also scuttlebutt right now. We know blanket loan forgiveness is a hot topic in DC right now. Unknown if they're going to forgive, a portion, be that a small portion or a large portion of students' loans. Again, no one's been making any payments. No payments have been required for about 2.5 years now. Remains to be seen if there's any announcement on any kind of forgiveness.
Yeah.
The cynic in me says there's an election coming up in November, so they may decide to do some forgiveness, a couple weeks before, election day.
Yep. Big question marks. So there is one question about the pros and cons of federal loans. So you want to try and touch that a little bit?
Sure.
Mostly pros.
Mostly pros. The federal direct loans, you're going to be hard pressed to find an interest rate lower than the federal direct loans. Again, this coming year, it's fixed at 4.99%. That's a pretty good rate. It's a couple of years before that, it was lower. Right now, it's right around 5%, but still a good interest rate. There's also additional benefits to the federal loan program. If the student, God forbid, the student becomes disabled, passes away, the loan is immediately forgiven. Not all private loans do offer those kind of forgiveness benefits. Sallie Mae does on their private loans, but not all, of the private companies may. Again, there's a lot of flexibility with the federal loan programs. some of the disadvantages, they are capped. You still want to maximize that loan before you look at some other loan options, but you know, sometimes it doesn't cover the entire balance that the student may need, and they need to explore other loan options as well.
Great. And we do have some questions on the FAFSA itself. So I'm going to start with when the students list the colleges on the FAFSA, and let's say they don't get accepted to the school, can they change the college that they listed on the FAFSA to one that they do get accepted to?
Yes. So the nice thing about the FAFSA, the first time you fill it out, you can list up to 10 colleges on that FAFSA. So if there's any school that you're thinking of applying, you're up in the air on it, you can list up to 10 schools on there. Now, let's say a few weeks go by, another school comes up that you didn't have on the FAFSA and that now you're interested in. You can always swap schools in and out of there. So, once it's submitted to the original 10 schools, you can go on there. You can swap out all 10. You can swap out one. You can add and subtract schools as necessary.
Right. And the good thing to note is that once the school that you sent, let's say initially in the fall, you really are interested in 15 schools. You can put the first 10 in, submit it, let it process, and then go back once you get what's called a student aid report, go back in, take out 5 of the original 10 that you submitted and add the other 5 that you're interested in so that they also get the information.
Right.
All 15 schools will get the information. So you don't have
Right.
to worry about like that one school, they'll pull back the information from that school because you deleted them after you submitted. Once you've submitted the FAFSA and listed the schools, every school will get that data feed.
That's correct. And they'll continue to work. Even if you remove them off FAFSA, they will continue to work that FAFSA for you.
Right. Now, any changes that you might make afterwards, if you need to make changes, they won't get those if they've been removed, but you could also add them back in.
Right.
In that process. But hopefully you don't have 15 schools because that's a lot of traveling for
Yeah, and as you
everybody.
narrow them down, you can kind of, eliminate them as you go as well, as you get further into the process.
Yeah. Now, also we have a question about will we hear back from all schools that we list on the FAFSA or just the schools that the student has been accepted to?
Yeah, so usually you won't hear from financial aid until you've been accepted by admissions, and you've been accepted to the school. They'll hold your FAFSA, everything's digital these days or electronic. They'll hold your information in the system. Once admissions accepts you, then that triggers financial aid to get the ball rolling and notify you on any financial aid eligibility.
Okay. And then we have a question with regards to a pension. There's a gentleman who's currently drawing a pension, and does that qualify as income on the pension? If drawing from a qualified 403B account, does that affect the FAFSA also?
Generally, and check with the financial aid office on that one, because it's been a few years for me. If it shows up as income on the 1040 that you filed, then I believe it does get reported on the FAFSA as income. But just check with the college financial aid office on that one.
Okay. And we have a question about non-US citizens that aren't eligible for the FAFSA. What's the next best option for financial aid? I mean, obviously we're talking about scholarships, but what do you think?
Yeah, so it really depends. So if you're a resident if a non-eligible citizen resides in New York, you can still get financial aid through New York State. While you might not be able to get it through FAFSA, you still need to file FAFSA. So New York State And then, New York State also has their own separate application. But, you could still be eligible for the state that you reside in, even if you're not eligible for FAFSA. And some colleges will award their own financial aid, regardless of citizenship status. So just check with each individual college on that one.
Okay. And then we have a question again about 401k. Is it better to take out a loan or to take a loan from your 401k?
So I have to give my disclaimer again, check with a, licensed, financial advisor. This question, I'm always leery on using 401k funds for education. Sometimes there's a penalty to early withdrawal on your 401k. I like to use the example, if my 401k is getting an annual return of, let's say, 12%, which may or may not be true so far this year, but let's say you have an annual return of 12% on there, it may be better to leave that money alone and let it work for you and borrow a student loan at, say, 6, 7, 8% and still make that 12%, on the 401k. Everyone's circumstance is a little different, but certainly, that's something to consider there.
And then let's see. Oh, we have a question that's seeking clarification on what do you mean when a loan is capped?
So let me see if I can find that page. So the federal loans, they have annual caps on how much you can borrow. First year students can borrow up to $5,500. Then it increases a little bit each year, $6,500 the second year, $7,500 for any other years beyond that. That's the maximum amount that the government sets on those programs. So you can't borrow more than those amounts each year.
Okay. Let's quickly, we have a question about appeals. Can we go over what it means to appeal the FAFSA?
Yeah, so let's say there was a significant change in income from, so for this year, students, using 2020 tax information. Maybe your income was high in 2020. Now in 2022, there was a loss of job. So the way it works, you'd still file the financial aid, still file FAFSA based on what's required for that tax year. And then you would contact the financial aid office. They will send you what's called an appeal form, and it's probably posted on their website, where you can complete it, explain, special circumstances. Unfortunately, my company downsized in March 2022, and our income isn't what it, was back in 2020. Could you please look at current year income instead of the 2020 income that the FAFSA requires? And the financial aid will do, they'll do the calculations their own outside of the FAFSA process and use your current year income, which would be less due to the job loss than it would have been, back in 2020, for example.
And I know we are getting, well beyond the 8 o'clock hour. So I think this is a good question for us to a whole host of the other questions that we have. If someone has further questions, where can they go for information and answers?
So we at Sallie Mae, we're happy to, field all types of questions on financial aid and the student loans. NSHSS is a great resource, for any kind of, questions on the college process.
I would also probably add, Chris, that as you're looking at the different colleges that you're interested in, the financial aid offices understand that there are so many different circumstances, and they are very willing to address questions, even if you're not admitted, even if you're just visiting the school over the summer or in the fall. You can absolutely have a conversation with a financial aid office, even if that's not your preferred school to go to, right? They're more than willing to have conversations with you to address any
Absolutely. And,
questions you have.
even, if a local community college financial aid office, they are, happy to answer, financial aid questions. Even if you're not going to that school, the process is pretty much the same, from college to college. So certainly any financial aid office can help you. You're absolutely
Right.
correct.
And as you start getting closer to the schools that you're really, really interested in, that's where you can do deep dive conversations with the financial aid offices to get
Absolutely.
their specific policies about their institutional monies and how they handle the aid packaging process. So I want to hand it over to you, Chris. I think we've done as much as we can without keeping these people till midnight.
Yeah, thank you so much for moderating the questions, Stephanie. Thank you to Melanie as well. I think she was having some technical difficulties, but thank you both. I hope this session, was informative to everyone. We have sessions with national scholars throughout the year. So certainly stay tuned, for future webinars. We'll hope to see you again. Thanks. Good night, everyone.